Alright, you guys, what is going on? And welcome back to the channel. So today we're sitting in the STI. It's a beautiful day, and we're going to be answering the most commonly question I get on Instagram. So we're going to be talking about dam and feedback knock, and if you have those in correlation, where you should start troubleshooting, what you should look at, and then the avenues of approach of what you should kind of do to resolve the issues if you can, or if your engine actually is blown or not. So I mean, let's answer the questions, let's do the thing, and let's get into it. Alright, you guys, so if you are seeing that knock and that dam going off, that's pretty good indication that something is not going on in the car. And you guys have been asking me a lot about, hey, is this normal? Is this normal? Is that normal? So what is a normal range for these? You're gonna want dam to be at 1. If you're on an older WRX, you're gonna want it to be at 16. Now feedback knock, ideally you're gonna want 0, but you're gonna see -2.8, -3.2, -1.4. Those are all normal values that are gonna come up. That's just your knock sensor picking them up. If you guys want more detail in this, go back to the access port video I made of what you should monitor, but we're specifically talking about dam and feedback knock right now. So if you are seeing those two values come up, we're gonna go into each of these segments that could be indicators of why it is going off. Now the first one to keep in mind is, have you filled up your car with new fuel recently? Have you gone to a new fuel station? Was there fuel quality, and did you get the right octane fuel also? I gotta say it happens sometimes. So making sure that you're running quality gas and making sure that it's not watered down, their fuel tanks are not leaking, and you're not getting any water into your fuel is gonna be critical to making sure that your dam and your feedback knock stay high. Now, like I said, we do call these things anxiety ports for a reason. They can give you some anxiety when you are getting some false readings on there, but we're gonna get into false readings here shortly. So just making sure that you have good, proper fuel is going to be something that is essential. Now, if you do have bad fuel in here, you're not gonna know it unless you're pulling the fuel out and looking at it. Now, because fuel and water are different densities, they don't mix. Fuel will sit on the top and water will sit on the bottom. But that's a good indication to you, because that way, if you are getting some water in your fuel, you are gonna be sucking that water up through your fuel system before you're grabbing just 100% fuel. Now, if that is the case and you do have trace amounts of water, just don't get into boost, don't get on the hard card and run that fuel tank empty, and then go to a recommended or a good quality fuel station and refill up with the proper octane fuel. But if that does scare you a little bit, something you can do is grab a small thing of octane booster, throw it in there, and hope to God that it doesn't blow up. I'm kidding. But if you do want to, you can throw a little bit of octane booster in there to try to level out the water that's in there by raising the fuel octane a little bit to compensate for that water dilution. Unless you have like a ton of water in there, it's not going to be a huge issue. But that is one thing you can do. Just don't get on the car hard if you are getting those numbers and you know you went to a sketchy gas station recently. Now, looking at the gas is going to be the first place that you want to start. But what if I know I got good gas somewhere? It's a good question. Now, if you know you had good gas, like our friend over here, the next thing you're going to want to do is see if you're throwing any cells, but that should be immediate to you if you are getting those knocks and that dam dropping. A cell is going to stand for that check engine light. If it is throwing a cell, something that I always want to check for it is to see if it is throwing a misfire in any of the cylinders. If it is, then you can start diagnosing that by swapping out spark plugs, swapping around coil packs, and seeing if that resolves the issue. Now, if that doesn't resolve the issue and you're still having issues with it, the next thing that I normally check is going to be the knock sensor. Now, if the knock sensor is failing, it's going to start throwing false readings, which is going to start alerting you, but your dam shouldn't be dropping if if your knock sensor is throwing you a whole bunch of knock. Now, you're only really going to see bad dam and bad knock if something is seriously going wrong or the car is not happy with something. I've experienced this before with this specific car. When I decided to throw a downpipe on the car with the stock fuel system, it didn't like it. It was running very lean. My dam kept dropping. My knock was all over the place. So it's a really good indication to me that something wasn't quite happy in the car. That one was tune specific, which is going to be the next one that we get into. Now, if you're putting parts on the car that it is not tuned for, it can trigger that dam and that knock to start going off. Like with my car, it was leaning out quite a bit because the fuel system that came with the car just couldn't keep up with the intake and the downpipe that were already on the car. So if you are putting parts on the car that is not tuned for, you can see a result in dam dropping and knock going off. So if you recently installed some parts on the car and you're then getting those readings, that's a good indication to go back and either remove the parts or go get the car tuned for the proper parts that are on the car. But let's say this happened out of nowhere. Let's say that everything has been hunky-dory up until this point. Everything has been just fine and you're getting these dam and these feedback knock readings. Now, like I said, let's assume everything is hunky-dory and your tune is fine and all your parts are tuned for the car. Now the next thing that I will generally go to look at is to make sure that my knock sensor, there's nothing loose, there's nothing like rattling around down there. Maybe you dropped a bolt and it had fallen somewhere on top of the block, and that might be kicking off that knock sensor. But like I said, the knock sensor alone isn't going to just start dropping your DAM. Your DAM has to do with your timing on the car. So if you are seeing just knock go off and no DAM go off, then you are going to have potentially something going on with your knock sensor. Now, if there is something going on with your knock sensor, it's going to be right near the back of the block, right on top of it. So it's not terribly, I mean, it sucks to get to, actually, you know, I lied to you. It sucks to get to if you do have to swap that knock sensor. But if you are having a bad knock sensor, you'll also see a code thrown on your access port. I'll put the code down here because I don't remember what it is. But if you see that code, then your knock sensor itself just might be bad. So this is where things start to get a little bit scary. So let's say that your fuel's good, let's say that you're tuned for all the parts on the car, and let's say your knock sensor's just fine. Now, if all three of those are good, the next thing that I would personally do is a compression test on the car. So what a compression test is gonna do is gonna tell you the PSI that each cylinder is holding. Now you're gonna see varying results on compression tests, whether the engine is hot, whether it's cold, whether you're doing it with throttle open or throttle closed. Now you do want your values to be within 10 PSI of one another, and that's gonna tell you it's got a healthy engine and not one of the cylinders is starting to die. If the cylinder is dying, there could be multiple factors playing into effect of what is actually going on with it, and to further diagnose it, you'd have to pull the engine out, tear it apart, and see what was going on. Personally, at that point, that's what I would do. Now, if your compression test comes back good, you've got ghost knock or something else going on if you are still seeing that DAM and that feedback knock happen. But those are gonna be the first 4 things that I would look at when it comes to seeing decreased DAM values as well as increased knock values. Now, it could be so many other things going into the car. You could have a fueling issue, you could have a spark issue, you could have a boost leak somewhere. There are so many other issues that could come into effect of where you could just to find whatever's going wrong with the car. It's all gonna come down to your diagnosis, how much time you're gonna end up spending trying to find it. You could do a smoke test to see if there's any boost leaks in the car, if you have a massive vacuum leak or not. But if you do have a vacuum leak that big, you're gonna see varying results of the car not wanting to idle correctly and a whole bunch of other things. I just wanted to make this video to get it out there for you guys, just to answer some of the common questions when it does come to seeing that decreased DAM and that increased knock value on your car. Those are the 4 things that I would start looking at before jumping into anything else and spending too much time digging through things that you don't need to be digging into. All right, you guys, now remember, there could be so many other things going on with the car that it could be outside of one of those 4 things. Personally, that's where I start looking if I do see that decreased DAM and that increased knock. Everyone's car is going to be different. Everything's going to vary based on what's done to your car, what your issue might be. So if you are looking for a place to start, I do suggest those 4 spots. If you do need to go into it deeper, I mean, there's gonna be so many other factors that go into other problems that it's just not gonna narrow it down to one thing. But if those are the only issues that I see is decreased DAM and increased knock, I suggest starting with those 4 things. But I hope this answers some of the general questions that you guys have been having when it comes to those. I've been getting a lot of messages on Instagram about that stuff. So, I mean, if you do wanna reach out to me on Instagram, I'm doing my best to get back to everyone also. It's just taking me a little bit of time because there's a lot of messages coming in. But you guys can go ahead, hit up the Instagram right down there. Shoot me a message if you do have any questions about anything. But with that, that's really gonna wrap this video up for you guys. Ooh! So if this video did help you out and you did enjoy the content, go ahead, smash that like button if you desire. Ooh, and if you're not already subscribed to the channel and you wanna be, let's do this top right, my right, your left corner tonight. And with that, I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, homies. Woo!